All right, what's up guys? Got Dave here, just leaving the pad, and I wanted to talk about my favorite mods, and I'm planning on doing a video for every one of my bikes, and this is like for the Grom. If you buy a Grom completely stock, brand new, here's what I would recommend that you do first and second and third. And the things that I think about are not only like from a performance standpoint, but it's also from a safety standpoint, you know, because in my opinion, high performance means more safety. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, high performance is more danger. It's like, no, if your bike turns like really good, the chances of you being able to swerve around something is really good. And if your bike stops really good, the chances of you being able to stop when somebody comes out in front of you is really good. You know, so it's like, that's my justification for thinking that way, is I think high performance means more safety. And so the very first thing that I would recommend that you do if you get a Grom is get new tires for this bike, because the tires that come on this Grom are crap, and if the ground is wet at all, it's not a good deal. They're not like a good rubber compound or whatever. They're like plastic or whatever the hell they're made out of. They're crappy tires, just trust me. Go with what I did is I got those Midas MC35 S Racer. They're DOT approved, but they're basically like racing tires, and they're really soft, and they hook up totally good, and you can totally trust them coming through any turn, no matter what. You know, it's like basically they outperform the Grom. The Grom doesn't go fast enough to blow through those tires, these tires.
And this is what those tires look like. This is how they come. This is just a set, and that's the rear and the front, and that's what they look like. I mean, they really don't have much tread on them, but they are a DOT legal tire.
Then the second thing I would say to get is the brake lines, because I did the braided brake lines to replace the rubber ones that come on this bike. And these stainless braided brake lines, I forgot who I got the kit from. I think it was Galfer. It was only like 30 bucks for the front, 30 bucks for the rear. And the biggest deal about it is just bleeding the brakes. You know, it's like you just install the line, no big deal, but then you got to bleed it all out so that it works good. You know, make sure you get all the air out of the system like it should be. And you know, if you don't know how to do that, I suggest take it to a dealership and make sure it's done right, because brakes matter. It's a big freaking deal.
Yeah, this is what these lines look like. You just run it from your brake lever down to here, and it comes with new copper gaskets, copper washers, and you tighten it all up, and then you just got to bleed it out through the little bleed nipple. You got to undo that and then just bleed it out until it's all solid, and it makes it feel seriously like you got a different caliper. It makes it feel like this is like a Brembo setup now or something. It's crazy, you know, without even changing the size of the rotor or the caliper or the handle. You know, just by putting this line, it makes a huge difference. Same with the rear, just by putting that line, that braided line, it makes a huge difference, man. You got to take off this rear fender thingy and run the line underneath it. It's not really that big of a deal to install it. Like I said, it's more of a big deal to bleed the brakes after installation than it is to actually put the line on the bike. It's not that big of a deal. But I wanted to show you a little trick that I did for the rear brake. And right here, there's two springs. And the one spring pulls on the brake light sensor switch to turn on the brake light when you hit the pedal, and the other one here in the front is the return spring for the pedal. And stock, that return spring is too stiff. And when I first got this bike, I thought to myself, I'm like, dude, you know, the back brake doesn't work good. You know, like I could stand on this with my right foot and it doesn't lock up the back tire. I don't understand why it doesn't do that. Like if I'm going down the street, I pull in the clutch and I go, it should go and lock up the back tire. And it doesn't. And the reason why is because it had a gnarly spring for the return spring. So what I did is I took that off and I put this little tiny spring here, and it's just enough to return it, you know, that it comes back up so that it's not dragging the rear brake. But at the same time, when you hit the brake, it's not like any resistance. So it makes it feel like the back brake is actually stronger or more powerful than it was before, just by changing that spring.
It makes the brakes a billion times better. It makes them feel like all of a sudden you got like aftermarket calipers or whatever. I mean, it's just unreal what the difference is. And then the third thing that I would recommend, I think, is if you ride for fun and high performance, I would recommend getting the Kitako twist throttle that makes it less turn for the amount of gas it's giving it. It's like the quick turn throttle or whatever. And get the stiffer clutch springs. That, like, I would get both of those at the same time, and that would be like the performance thing that I would say to do. And if you're more into like reliability, and especially if you ride somewhere where it's hot, I would say to get the Kitako side cover and the external oil filter or oil cooler.
And this is what the side cover looks like. It's not a cheap mod, but it gives you the sight glass instead of using a dipstick. And it has the cartridge oil filter, which is the same paper oil filter as used on a 450, Honda 450 dirt bike. And you just undo those two screws and pull it out like a brand new bike and put in the new one, then button it up, and that's it for the oil change. And then it's also got the in and out ports so that you can hook up the oil cooler. And they sell a 3-row cooler and a 5-row cooler. And I got the 5-row because I figured, it'd be a little bit bigger, do a little bit more cooling, and hold more oil volume. So that's what I got. And it definitely makes a big difference. Like when I heat gun the side of the engine on a hot day, like before and now, it's a big difference having that oil cooler.
That cooler definitely makes a big difference. It's not just a showpiece. It actually makes a really big difference as far as how it works. So those are my top mods that I would say to do to this bike. I mean, I've done other stuff to this thing. Like I got the Öhlins rear shock and the cartridges for the front forks, and I did, the steering dampener, and I did a tail tidy. And I mean, I've done a bunch of stuff. I changed the mirrors. I've done a bunch of stuff to this bike. But as far as like top mods that you're really gonna feel the difference is, number 1 is tires, number 2 is brakes, and then just go from there. Have fun with this thing. It's a great bike. But really the one thing that I haven't done, I'll tell you that, let me put this into the video. The one thing that I haven't done is I haven't hopped up the motor. Like I've done things to the motor, like it's got the side cover and it's got the oil cooler and the stiffer clutch springs, like I've put some stuff into this engine. It's got the high volume oil pump, which is recommended to do when you do the oil cooler. There's like, I've done a bunch of stuff to the engine, but I haven't raised the compression. I haven't upped the CCs. I haven't tried to like raise the actual power of the engine. I'm not like straining the engine trying to make more power. I haven't put in a different cam. I haven't changed the intake. I haven't done any of that crap. I haven't even changed the muffler. It's still got the stock muffler, dude. So that's where I pick and choose as far as my mods go. Like I know it's like you could put hundreds into this bike and really not make it all that much faster. But when it comes to like tires and brakes and stuff like that, the money you spend on that will be incredibly noticeable. Especially going downhill, man. I can whoop ass going downhill through the canyon. Oh, this bike handles amazing, dude. And it's trustworthy because of the everything, dude. It's great. So let me know what you think. Let me know, give me your opinion on if you've got a Grom, what you've done to your bike, and like what you would recommend for your top 3 mods. But that's my list, and I'm sticking to it. So I will talk to you guys later, and have a great day out there. Peace.